Hey, what's up, nature freaks?
What's going on?
Dave and Jeremy back in our studio, and today we're going to be talking about some very popular pet reptiles that don't necessarily make good pets despite their popularity.
Yeah, so we're not here to tell you what you can and you can't do with your life, all right? You do whatever you want, but we are here to give you a little forewarning before you run out and you see those cute, adorable faces, and next thing you know, you have a giant on your hands.
Yep, so they're going to go from cutie to the beast. So let's get right to it and get you some more nature in your face.
Nature in your face!
All right, guys, we're going to talk about these three really adorable reptiles in front of us. I am holding an African black-throat monitor lizard.
And here we have the African sulcata tortoise.
And this squirmy little guy in between us is the Burmese python. Now, collectively, these three reptiles right now might weigh a few ounces, but eventually we're going to have adults on this table that are going to weigh over 200 pounds.
That's right, and if you go to any reptile show, even a lot of reptile pet stores, you can find any of these animals in there. Now, we're not saying that's a bad thing, but we're just here to show you what's going to happen when you go and buy that cute little baby and then you get a giant. So we're going to break it down individually right now.
Yeah, and I say we talk about the sulcata tortoise first.
Definitely.
All right, let's
get it. All right. So Dave is off camera right here with the giant version of this. So this is the baby. It's a few months old already. And if you've seen a full-grown African sulcata, you might be blown away by the size of this. This is easy to take care of. You go to the pet store, you fall in love with it, you bring it home, put it in an aquarium, no big deal. It's not busting the glass. It's not tearing up drywall. It's not pushing down chain link fences and knocking over trees. But now, Dave, bring in the beast. Oh, Dave's struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
Look at the comparison to this.
Oh my gosh.
It's not even as big as its head.
We are going to have to end this episode early because I'm going to need hernia surgery. Oh my gosh.
Blew it out.
Guys, this tortoise is easily 100 pounds plus. Now, I had this shipped from, I bought it from a gentleman in Arizona. Obviously in Arizona, you can keep them outdoors in some areas most of the year because of the climate. Here we bring him indoors, so goes in the sun, out in the summer, in the winter. And he was a lot smaller than this. They grow very quick. If you feed them correctly, they go from that to this in a matter of 20 years. That's not that long.
No, that's not that long.
Especially considering how old they get. These things can live over 120 years.
Yeah, over 120 years. That's something to think about too. Not only the size, but I mean, no one can commit to 120 years. Yep. I don't care who you are. You know, this is going to outlive you, potentially outlive your children. It'll be like their grandchildren, like, I remember back in the day when it was this big.
Yeah.
See if you can stretch him out sideways. I don't know if he looks really. I got the front. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. That was your hand?
Yeah.
Well, you should have known. Look at this.
Look at this, like a coffee table.
On top, right there. Now, think about this though. The cool thing though is if you have the space to grow one of these out. Now, we live in the Midwest, unfortunately, so we do get winter, so these guys have to come inside, and they need a lot of space indoors, and they need something that they're not going to destroy and tear apart. I've seen, remember the time we went to a guy's house and wanted us to rescue some sulcatas, and he had them in like a closet that he had built, and they had destroyed the whole lower half of the wall and the drywall just moving around.
Yeah, these guys burrow, so when you put them in an area where they don't have dirt or sand to be able to burrow in, they will try to go through drywall. If you have them out in your yard and you have a gate or a fence, they will try to dig under it and often do. So they're not easy to keep in captivity, particularly when they get this size.
Right, that's why a lot of times you see them in warmer climates like Florida, which it's super humid there for them, and in the drier areas like Arizona, Texas, people can keep them outside, grow them to massive size. I mean, that's where this one came from. So it just depends on where you live. We're just saying do your research. They can be incredible animals to keep. They're very rewarding. They can be super social. But don't expect to get this little tiny tortoise and then you just always have a little baby. That's not going to happen. There's other species that are a lot more appropriate for that.
Yeah, let me give him an analogy. It's kind of like bringing that 7.5-pound baby boy or girl home from the hospital, and then in a matter of no time, you got that 13-year-old fat kid sitting on your couch, eating you out of home, house and home, and leaving the lights on. So
right, and then now they stay home till they're 25 or 30, so
or 120.
Or 120.
Actually, I read that I think the record lived 178 years old.
That's
That was
insane.
the record tortoise.
That's insane.
All right, so these are the sulcata tortoises. I say now let's talk about the black-throated monitor lizard.
Yeah, this isn't how to care for these animals. This is what you're going to start with
and what you're going to end up with.
and what you potentially will end up with unless it outlives you.
All right, guys, so our second reptile that we're going to feature here is the black-throated monitor lizard. Now, this is Africa's largest native lizard. Jeremy's off camera because he's going to be bringing out the adult version of this. So, pretty cute. You'd never know that this thing could grow to 6 feet. But, Jeremy, bring him on in. Here we go. All right. Woo!
There he is.
Look at that monster. Look at that Godzilla. All right,
See if I
sit
can
down.
compare him to my body. Really
Yeah, if
quick.
you stretch the tail out,
Just like that.
there you go.
Stretch the tail out.
He is over 5 feet from the tip of his snout to the end of his tail. And
Me or
he-
the lizard?
No,
Oh.
you're not my height. You're tall. But anyway, the males can get 6 feet. This is a male, so he will probably grow another 5 or 6 inches before it's all said and done. He's about 12 years old. They can live to be 25 to 30 years old. But just check this out. Look at that little cutie on top of Dada. Now, actually, these are not related. This is not the offspring of this
Yeah.
male,
He would totally eat this thing too.
right?
I'm not
mean,
gonna
look
let
at
that
that.
happen.
Just like the tortoise on top of that big boy. Look at this thing. I mean, it's amazing. This thing is not even as big as its limb, one of its limbs.
Right. I mean, it's probably the size of his tongue.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, these have massive tongues.
There it is. I'll make him stick his tongue out. Look, it's baby.
Oh,
Give him a
there it
kiss. And unlike the tortoise, these guys are pure carnivore. In the wild, they'll eat anything from, they're actually immune to snake venom. They'll eat snakes, they'll eat birds, they'll eat mammals. In captivity, you give them stuff like chicken, beef, fish. So anything
Whole prey items,
Yep.
chicks, mice, rats. So that's one thing right there is you got the size. I mean, this thing's going to get huge. Obviously, it needs to move around. They also are live in burrows, so it's a burrow. They like to dig, so they need a good substrate. They do like to climb even. They need it really, really hot. So that's something I don't think we talked about with the tortoises, the temperature. Like, you got to keep these guys super hot. They need to have a basking spot up over 100 degrees so they can move in and out of. So that requires space, obviously. And then you were just saying food.
Yep.
Meat.
Yeah, and it's expensive to feed these guys because they do need to eat 2 or 3 times a week. And one other thing that we didn't really have to mention with the tortoise is the fact that because they're carnivorous, they obviously have big teeth, and a bite from these guys can be very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
They have a very powerful jaw. They have serrated teeth. And even an accidental bite can be serious. So if you're offering it food, if you're not tawing feeding and it grabs your fingers, you're going to the hospital, you're getting stitches. Just not something you want to get bit by. It's something you should consider, when you really look at how big these things get and how dangerous they can become.
Yeah, even a
to
tame
us.
one. I mean, we take these animals to shows and kids pet them. I mean, you see how chill they are. And in the next room, I have a good sized Asian water monitor. And one day it was sleeping. I just went in to get it, disturbed it, and it bit my arm. I was bleeding pretty good. I mean, it didn't hold on or anything because it's super tame, but just that, quick latch, cut me pretty good.
And like you said, the average person is not taking these animals to shows, handling them on a daily basis. So this is kind of misleading. They don't get like this unless you handle them a lot. And a lot of people that have them as pets don't have the time to handle them. They go to work, or in the case of a kid, they might go to school. And so you might have an aggressive or a defensive animal behind glass that's going to bite you or try to bite you every time you put your hand in it. So that's just something to think about, where you don't have to worry about that with the tortoise.
So not only do you have the potential for a bite, huge size, meat, but they also get really sharp claws too.
Even this guy, man, he's digging.
And if necessary, because they go to shows, we do trim their nails. But a lot of times when they're digging and moving, it keeps them pretty worn down. But to be on the safe side, because they're near kids, and if they move around, we don't want anybody to get scratched. You got to keep the nails trimmed. And
I was just going to say that.
This beast right here, this muscle, the top of this tail, okay, it feels like rebar, okay? And if you've ever been smacked by rebar, I don't know why you would get hit by that, but it would not feel good. So this right there uses as a whip. Bow! And they will light you up. I've taken one to the eye. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Years ago.
You were
I
messing up
went in
for a
to
week.
get one tail in the eye, and I'm like this, like could not see out of my eye for like 2 days.
Yeah, I'll never forget that phone call.
That was messed up.
All right, so guys, here's your monitor lizard. We are now going to talk about the largest of the 3 reptiles, which is that Burmese python. You saw that little snake. We could hang that tail off our finger. It's about that big. Mm-hmm. This is top 5 largest snake on the planet in terms of length and weight. These things get massive. I mean massive. So we're going to put up the lizards and we're going to bring out the Burmese python and show you what that thing turns into.
There we go.
All right, guys. So Jeremy and I are both away from the table because it's going to take 2 people to pick up this final giant beast of a reptile.
Yeah. So we got the mini version right here, the little one. Here, let's just kind of stretch it out really quick.
Here we go.
Now, what's kind of cool is the berm we're going to pull up here is albino, so it's going to be a really cool contrast, but same species, not a different snake.
Yep.
So let's move this one out of the way so it doesn't get smashed.
All right.
And we're going to, this is a male. The females get bigger than the male, so take note of that.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Stay out of the way for you get smashed.
Ready?
Yeah, you want to hand me that?
Yep, here we go. Well, swing this way.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it
there you
this
go.
way. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna pick up the body and tail. Whoa! Oh, yeah.
We can't even get him.
Oh my goodness.
All the way in there, really. But
yeah, we need a panoramic view to show you the whole snake. That's not happening.
Yeah,
Let me put this guy.
See that? I like that. The contrast. We can barely. It feels like the snake has a belt on or something.
Right. Look at that. Yeah, this color morph is very common in the pet trade. Has been for many years. But like Jeremy said, this is not normal. This thing would never survive in the wild because obviously it has no camouflage. Predator would see it before it ever had the opportunity to grow up to be a big size. But look at this guy. Perfect earth tones, a lot of browns, beige. So on the forest floor, they would be invisible. This guy would be able to grow up to be a beast in the wild like this one.
Yeah, so like I was just talking about, this is a male, okay? Now you can see the head, not that big. Compared to how the female's head is the size of my hand. So really big head, all right? And this snake is probably around 14 to 15 feet. The females get even longer than that.
I would say this thing is 15, 16 feet easy.
They get even heavier than this, the females do. So this is an impressive male. He's a big boy. But look at that compared to that tiny little snake. I mean, you could get that, put in a little aquarium. Hey, beautiful, I got a snake. And then eventually, what you want to get to is you're going to get this massive animal. Because if you're taking care of them properly, they need to get to these sizes. And that's important to say. Like, you can't miniaturize these animals by putting them in a smaller enclosure, feeding them less. I mean, then you're just torturing an animal, basically.
Yeah, I was about to say, this thing goes from eating tiny fuzzy mice. In the wild, they can take down and swallow an antelope. That's not an exaggeration. So
you say antelope?
I said antelope. So, I mean, think about that. Look how this thing starts out, this little tiny rope, and then he gets to be this.
I was like, what's touching my leg? It was the snake.
Yeah, I know. He's kind of falling off the table. Anyway, guys, and what makes these things so dangerous? There's not an ounce of venom in this thing's mouth. They're constrictors, and they don't have to be this big to be dangerous. A 4, 5, 6 foot snake around a young child's neck can potentially spell disaster.
Not even that. I mean, there was just recently, I don't know, in the past year, there was a snake catcher in Australia who got a carpet python out of a tree, and I want to say the thing might have been 8 foot, maybe that big around
too.
It got around her neck, and people had to come to the rescue of that snake catcher because of how tight it was. Now, this snake is like a puppy dog, super chill, even though he's being a little cranky right now.
Again, because of the shows we bring it to.
Right, but in the enclosure, when it knows it's being fed, it's a different snake.
Yep.
It is at the glass. It's like, let's do this, all right? And if I were to reach in there with those heat pits and it's ready to go, it would grab me and it would be bad.
Yeah, what he means by those heat pits is boas and pythons have those sort of triangular shaped pits all around the mouth. If you turn the lights off, they can detect the warm-blooded heat, or I should say the heat coming off the warm-blooded animal's body in total darkness and see you even though you can't see them. So if they're looking at you as food, dangerous.
Yeah,
very dangerous.
You do not want to play hide and go seek in the dark with the Burmese python. You will lose every time.
And the teeth, oh my gosh. And I am speaking from experience. I've been bitten by large pythons. We work with these things all the time, so there's always going to be an accident once in a while. They're hook-like teeth. It's literally like somebody sticking small nails into your hand, hundreds of them. That's how, just, you can imagine how painful that is, the recurved teeth into your hand, your arm, wherever you get bit. But it is not fun. Definitely not a good pet, particularly when they get bigger. And you can't prevent an animal from being bigger. If you feed it and keep it healthy, it's just going to keep growing on you.
So there's a lot of potential for danger if you don't know what you're doing, especially if you are familiar with just the behavior of snakes, period. Remember that video of the lady who petted the retic that was coming out of the aquarium?
Yes.
And she was like, hey, baby.
Yeah, right.
And then it grabbed her hand. Well, I mean, as soon as I saw the video, everyone knew it was coming out for food. It was looking for food. And that was the response. I got a retic upstairs I would take out like kindergartners pet, but I wouldn't open the cage and stick my hand in there. That thing would do the exact same. We'd recreate that video in a heartbeat.
Yeah, right. All right, guys, so just to summarize, we got 3 reptiles that start out very small. You got the black-throat monitor, you got the Burmese python, and you have the sulcata tortoise. Now, these aren't the only 3 reptiles that you can buy in the pet trade that grow massive. There's reticulated pythons. What else you got?
Green anacondas.
Even iguanas start out really small, can get really big. They
A
can
Nile monitor, I mean, that's decent size, yeah.
Yep. All right. So, guys, again, as Jerry mentioned earlier, we're not here to tell you what you should and should not have as a pet. You're going to have to use your own discretion on what you think makes a good pet for you or your kids. This is just simple advice to let you know, in our opinions, from the years and years of working with these reptiles, that they just get too big for the average pet owner. So just be careful when you go to that pet store and you see an animal. Make sure you pick up a book, or ask the pet store owner, how big does it get? How defensive is it? And just learn a little bit about the animal so you can make sure that the pet is right for you.
Speaking of when you go to the pet store, 2 of these animals were provided to us by local pet stores. The Burmese python right here, Gills and Thrills, and we'll throw some links in there too. Gills and Thrills in Lockport, Illinois. And then the baby sulcata tortoise was from Animal Island. We'll get a shot of the back of my shirt. Says Animal Island. We'll throw that in there. So those guys kind of sponsored the video today by letting us use a couple of their babies. And one last thing I want to say is, you might tell yourself, hey, I don't care. I want the animal. It's cool. If it gets too big, I'll find another home for it. And that, unfortunately, that's a terrible mindset to have, because those sulcatas are like the new iguanas. They're like the throwaway pets. People are buying them. They're in rescues everywhere you go. Or if you get a big snake or a big lizard that becomes super food aggressive, you might be afraid of it. Now you don't want to feed it. You don't want to take it out. It's living in horrible conditions. And if you really love the animal, you don't want that for it.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching this episode. If you found it interesting, if you liked it, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, comment, let us know if you have any reptiles, especially the big ones that we highlighted today.
You keep the beast. Holla!
That's right. So we'll see you guys on the next episode of Nature in Your Face. Psst.